The overnight bag was not new. He'd had it for years, a navy canvas weekender with a broken zipper pull he'd always meant to fix. He used it for the trips he took twice a year to see his brother, for the occasional work conference, for the weekends away we'd taken together in the first year we were dating. I knew it well. I'd packed it alongside my own bag on at least a dozen occasions. I found it under the bed in February. That wasn't unusual, it lived under the bed between trips. What was unusual was that it was packed. He hadn't mentioned a trip. We'd had dinner together the evening before and talked about the weekend, the things we needed to do, the friend's birthday on Sunday we were both going to. There had been no mention of him going anywhere. And yet the bag under the bed was packed, 2 days of clothes, his wash bag, the book he was currently reading. I pushed it back where I found it. I was looking for a shoebox and I'd found the bag and I spent a moment looking at it and then I put it back and I stood up and I went on with my day. I want to describe that moment of putting it back, the deliberate act of returning something to exactly where it was, the decision not to react yet. I had spent 3 years learning to trust the ordinary explanations. The bag could mean anything. A trip he'd planned and simply not mentioned yet, an oversight in conversation, the natural friction of two people sharing a life not always communicating every detail in real time. I gave myself those explanations and I held them and I put the bag back and I went on with my Tuesday. But the bag stayed with me. He'd packed it at some point in the previous 24 hours without telling me. Either he'd forgotten to mention a trip, or he was planning something he hadn't told me about, or, and this was the third possibility I sat with, the bag was for something he didn't intend to tell me about at all. We had been together for 3 years. I understood his habits around travel. He was not the kind of person who packed in advance and then forgot to mention it. He packed the night before or the morning of, efficiently, without drama. A pre-packed bag sitting under the bed on a Tuesday evening without any accompanying conversation was not consistent with how he operated. I didn't ask about it. Not that evening, not the next morning. We had dinner together Wednesday and talked about a film we'd seen and the week ahead and I asked nothing about the bag. What I did instead was start to look at the shape of our week more carefully. The pattern of his evenings, when he was home by 7, when he was later, what the difference in his manner was on the days when something had happened that he wasn't telling me about. I began, quietly and without announcement, to understand his movements in our shared life with more precision than I'd previously applied. 3 years is long enough to know someone's rhythms. When he was tired from work, it sat in a specific way, quieter, a little slower to engage. When he was stressed, he defaulted to practicality, tasks, forward planning. When he was happy, there was a particular ease that I'd always loved. What I'd been seeing for several weeks was none of those. Something else. A quality I hadn't had a word for and was now beginning to name. I didn't ask about it. I want to explain why I didn't ask, because I've been asked that since. The honest answer is that I wasn't certain yet, and certainty mattered to me. I didn't want to have the conversation that starts "I found your bag under the bed" and ends somewhere confused and recriminatory if there was an innocent explanation I hadn't thought of. A work thing he'd meant to tell me about and simply hadn't. A surprise he was keeping quiet for a good reason. So I waited. I watched the next 2 days. He came home at the usual time Wednesday. He was normal Thursday, present and easy and unremarkable. Friday evening he said he had a friend, someone I'd heard mentioned occasionally, not someone I'd met, who'd had a hard week and wanted company. He'd probably go over for a couple of hours. He came home at midnight. The navy bag was still under the bed. Saturday morning I was up before him. I checked the bag again. It was still packed. That night, while he was watching something in the other room, I opened his calendar on our shared household app. We used it for scheduling, not for tracking each other, but it was shared and both our work schedules were visible. His Saturday and Sunday were blank. No conferences, no trips, no labeled events. But on the following Thursday, there was a blocked slot, away, work. There had been no mention of a work trip next week. I closed the app. I went and sat beside him on the sofa. We watched the rest of whatever was on. I did not say anything. I was composing what I needed to say and deciding when. The following Wednesday evening, I asked him about next Thursday. "Are you traveling for work?" I said. I saw it on the shared calendar. He looked up from his phone. A half second, the specific pause of recalculation. "Yeah," he said. "Should have mentioned it. Client meeting, might need to stay overnight." I asked which client. He named a company. I asked which city. He named a city. I told him I'd found the bag under the bed 10 days ago, packed. That I'd been watching since then. That the calendar had no other trips, no other away markers. That I'd like him to tell me what the bag was for. He put his phone down. He looked at the table for a while. Then he looked at me. He didn't try to revise the packed bag into something innocuous. He understood from the way I'd listed everything, the bag, the 10 days, the calendar, the city that sounded rehearsed, that I had assembled enough to make further performance pointless. He told me about a woman he'd been seeing since the previous autumn. The bag had been packed for a trip with her, not that week, but for a plan they'd made for the following weekend, which had since changed. He'd packed it early and then the plans shifted and he'd left the bag there, either forgetting it or not getting around to unpacking it. He told me this in the careful, reduced way of someone giving as little detail as possible while still being technically honest. I noticed what he left out, the name, the place they'd planned to go, the texture of the 5 months, and I didn't ask for it. I didn't need it. I asked how long. "Since October," he said. 5 months of the bag under the bed. 5 months of the work trip calendars and the Friday evenings with friends and the city he'd named with the slightly rehearsed quality that had told me, when I'd heard it, that it wasn't quite real. I asked whether the client meeting on Thursday was real. He said yes, that part was real. I took that in. Then I told him I needed him to leave that evening and find somewhere to stay while I thought about what I wanted to do. He left within the hour. I did think about it, for 3 weeks, carefully. At the end of that time, I knew what I wanted to do. I asked him to collect the rest of his things on a Saturday while I was out. When I came home, he was gone and the bag was not under the bed. The space where it had been was just empty floor. There's a version of the story where I find the bag, ask about it immediately, and receive an explanation I can't disprove, a work event he'd forgotten to mention, a trip that's genuinely coming, a misunderstanding I hadn't needed to turn into something larger. That version exists. I've thought about it. The reason I didn't take it is that the bag, on its own, wasn't enough, but the bag combined with the preceding weeks of something being slightly off, combined with the shared calendar, combined with the tone of his voice when he named a city he'd been to with someone else, all of that together was a different kind of evidence. Not conclusive individually. Conclusive collectively. I asked him to leave that evening and find somewhere to stay while I thought about what I wanted to do. He left within the hour. He took the bag with him, which I thought about for a moment and then let go. It was his bag. The space under the bed where it had been was just empty floor, and that was fine. If you've ever found something that was supposed to be hidden and waited quietly until you knew everything you needed to know, drop it in the comments. Subscribe. New story every week.